Now let me turn to the opening speaker. Gina McCarthy is, well, I'm just going to say one word. She's great. That's all I'm going to say. She's the administrator of EPA, an expert in air and health issues, a record of environmental accomplishment in Massachusetts and Connecticut, now nationally and internationally, a visionary, smart, brave, disciplined, tenacious, right on time, who is applying all of these traits to addressing climate change and succeeding. And I know that they may have to adjust the teleprompter a little bit, but ladies and gentlemen, I give you Gina McCarthy. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. First of all, thank you, Governor, for the great introduction. One word is always good, as long as it's great. I appreciate that. I also find it a little bit daunting to follow you, except when we deal with climate change, because you paved a path that the rest of us follow, and I want to thank you for all of your tremendous leadership. And thanks, everybody, for being here in the National Council for Science and Education for pulling together this event. It's not the first time I've been here, and I relish the opportunity to get to talk to you for a little bit. So I plan on giving about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes of remarks, because I'd like to do some question and answers if that's possible to do, and if it's possible for me to shut my mouth long enough to stop in 10 to 15 minutes. We'll see. We'll see. But first of all, I want to say that it's official. 2014 was the hottest year on record. Does anybody here find that to be a shocking occurrence? I guess not. I didn't see any hands rise. And like President Obama said in his State of the Union last week, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, or in fact, any scientist at all for that matter, to know that the evidence is real. But just for good measure, the actual rocket scientists at NASA confirm that what the data has been showing us for 20 years is actually correct. Our planet is getting warmer, and human activity is the big reason why. And at EPA, we rely on science in every action that we take. Science today, and the work that you do with us today, is critical. It's critical today more than ever, so that we can preserve the integrity of the work that we do together. It is critical that we get the science right, and frankly, that we pay attention to what the science says. That is EPA's lifeblood. With science as our protector and as our guide, EPA has for more than 43 years steered America away from our health risks and towards a healthier community, a healthier quality of life. We're proud of our past successes, and while at the same time we're well aware that our job is very far from done. Let me give you just one example. Just think, more than 40 years after the passage of the Clean Water Act, we are still trying to clarify its jurisdiction. But we're making progress because of the work of many, many scientists. And also, those scientists have produced more than 1,200 peer-reviewed scientific papers that now are providing us the strong science foundation to finalize a clean water rule this spring that will protect our most precious resources. Progress continues to be made. But as we all know, the challenges we face together today are more complicated than they've ever been before, particularly when it comes to climate change. We've known for years that climate science is clear and it's undeniable. And today we're no longer projecting future impacts, we're simply tallying up the current costs. And that tally tells us that the costs of climate change is far too high to ignore. It's too high to let special interests muddy the science and stall the actions that we need to take to protect the health of American families, the safety of our communities, the security of our nation and the economic prosperity and the job growth that we all strive to achieve. So let me begin by thanking climate scientists for your scrupulous, your dogged pursuit of the science, and for your willingness to work with us policymakers as well as businesses to understand how to connect the climate dots, how to get our arms around the fact that carbon pollution is fueling climate change, and to thank you for all of your patience. I think we're finally getting it. I think we're finally that should deserve a clap, don't you think? We're finally getting it? Climate change isn't just an environmental challenge. It is a public health challenge, as rising temperatures bring more smog, more asthma, and longer allergy seasons. Carbon pollution from sources like power plants often come packaged with other dangerous pollutants like mercury, particulate matter, oxides of nitrogen, sulfur dioxide, piling up serious health risks for our children and our families. Climate change threatens national security as the world's most vulnerable populations face displacement from rising seas, droughts, and devastated local economies. And it poses one of the most significant economic challenges of our time. As temperatures and sea levels rise, so do insurance premiums, so do property taxes, so do food prices. The S&P 500 recently said climate change will continue to affect financial performance worldwide. Businesses now get it. When faced with economic costs of climate change, they know it's better investment to factor in the price of carbon when they make their business decisions, and they are doing it. What's the matter with the rest of us? But there's also good news. Our response to climate change can present huge economic opportunities. We don't have to run from the science for fear of the actions that science might precipitate. On the contrary, when we embrace the science, we can design strategies that work for all of us economically. This country can create the jobs of the future, and we can grow the economy if we invest in clean technologies and the tools essential to get us on a path towards a lower carbon economy. Because we've followed the science, EPA has dramatically enhanced public health and environmental protections and protected the pocketbooks of the people that we serve. Or looking at this audience, I should say, also the pockets of the people that we serve. And carbon pollution doesn't need to be treated any differently than those pollutants. In the State of the Union, President Obama laid out an agenda to protect and grow America's middle class, from spurring innovation and creating high-skilled jobs here in the U.S. to protecting our homes and our businesses. Acting on climate change isn't contrary to that vision. It is, in fact, essential to that vision, as is strong environmental protections everywhere. It's about investing in the jobs and technologies of today, not the decades-old technologies that got us here, but the ones that are going to provide us a sustainable future. That's why just a few months into this current term, the President laid out a comprehensive climate action plan, and that is what his administration is going to deliver. So when it comes to climate economics, the U.S. is taking action for two reasons. Number one, the costs of inaction are mounting, and the most expensive thing that we could ever do is nothing. And number two, climate action drives innovation and it spurs economic opportunity for all. That's why, in June of last year, EPA proposed a clean power plan to set carbon pollution standards for power plants. Our public comment period closed on December 1st. It was a sleepy time. All we received was just shy of 4 million comments on our proposal. And it remains a sleepy time at EPA. No, we're looking at those comments very hard, and we're going to work through them, and we are staying on track to finalize that rule in midsummer. We will get this done. And we take this action knowing that EPA and the states are and will continue to work together to get the job done for the American people that we all serve. We will significantly reduce carbon pollution in ways that are practical, that are reasonable, and affordable. We'll provide the flexibility that the states need to maintain a reliable and affordable energy supply, and we'll send the right market signal that will drive investments to support a lower carbon future for all. The Clean Power Plan will build on the investments that states, local communities, and businesses have already made in energy and efficiency and renewables. Do you know, since 2009, this country has tripled its wind energy, and it has seen a remarkable tenfold increase in solar energy. This is homegrown, clean technology that is posting record revenues and creating jobs that cannot be shipped overseas. This is what the future of America is all about. So to all of you scientists out there, America is listening. The science is winning out. Recent data tells us that around 70% of Americans now recognize that climate change is real, and 70% want the federal government to take action to do something about it. In fact, just yesterday, I was reading a letter that was sent to Congress on behalf of more than 200,000 businesses and more than 325,000 individual business owners in support of the Clean Power Plan. We have momentum, folks. For all of you rockin' scientists, maybe I should say this: we have liftoff. Businesses know the energy world is in transition, and they want to be a part of that transition so that we can turn the challenge of climate change into an economic opportunity for our businesses, our communities, and the United States of America. Because of the science you have faithfully pursued, because of President Obama's leadership and the leadership of our states and our business community, and because of all of our unfailing faith in U.S. innovation and ingenuity, the United States is not only taking domestic action, we're changing the climate conversation internationally. Just look at the historic agreements that the governor has referenced between the U.S. and China. Look at the work we are doing that is showing that climate action can bolster international cooperation and grow the global economy. So as we look ahead to climate negotiations in Paris, we have every reason to be optimistic. What we hope to achieve in Paris is a universal agreement to cut carbon pollution, to prepare for the impacts we can't avoid, and to provide financial assistance to help countries transition. We want an agreement that's ambitious, achievable, applicable to all, and that is lasting and fair. It won't be easy, just like the work in the U.S. has not been easy. It's not a sure thing. But I, for one, am tremendously optimistic, and I'm looking forward to everything that we can achieve together. Thanks for having me here today. As you can tell, I really appreciate the work that you all do, and I look forward to taking some questions. Thank you very much.
If you just want to take a seat, we'll take it sitting down. Can everybody hear me? Excellent. Okay, so we've been getting some questions from you and from our satellite events. So I'm just going to ask a few questions, and let's see what we have here. So the big question that everybody's asking, and there are lots of versions of these. So we have a Congress that, let's just say the majority in Congress are less than favorable to your efforts. How's that going to play out over the coming months?
Well, let me first say that the challenge of regulating carbon pollution is no different than how EPA has faced every pollution challenge that we have been facing for the past 43 years. We're going to follow the science, and we're going to follow the law. And, you know, environmental protection has in this country not been a partisan issue. People have recognized that we can address environmental challenges in a way that continue to grow the economy, and we're going to show the same thing for carbon pollution. You know, as many of you know, the President issued a carbon action plan, or a climate action plan, because he knew that there were actions that we could take that were practical, reasonable, and affordable, and he outlined them. We are using authority that Congress has given us. We're going to do it right. We're going to follow the law and the science, and we will, I'm sure, spend a great deal of time on the Hill explaining this. But in the end, Congress gave us not just the authority, but the responsibility for ensuring the protection of public health and the environment. EPA and I myself, we're going to do our job.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, there's a lot of media coverage right now about the Clean Power Plan. Mm-hmm. Another area the EPA is active is in fuel mileage standards, yes, and efficiency of automobiles and so forth. Mm-hmm. How big a factor is that, and what's happening, and what kind of impact do you see out of EPA's role in that area?
Yeah, it is actually a really big deal for a couple of reasons. Number one is not only is the transportation sector a significant source of traditional pollutants as well as carbon pollution, which is why we moved forward with our light-duty vehicle rules in the first term, and also a rule to regulate emissions from heavy-duty vehicles. But you know, the transportation area is one area where innovation has always driven better products for consumers, and the opportunities are tremendous for us to move forward, to continue on a path towards vehicles that are more fuel efficient and less polluting. And we've made tremendous progress, and more can be made. So one of the reasons why I love talking about the light-duty vehicle rules, which I won't dwell on now, but is because it proves that folks wondered why we would ever be challenging, you know, an auto industry in 2009 that was facing bankruptcy with additional environmental regulations, which when we say it, most people say, oh, woe is me, we're going to stop that industry in its tracks. I only say that because that's what they say. And in fact, the exact opposite has happened. We helped to talk to them, to remind them about the need to produce fuel-efficient vehicles, why people like them and want to buy them. And they have added hundreds of thousands of jobs, and they're stronger than they've been in decades. So it's a great example of what we can do when we work together. And we're going to follow that lead as we look at the next heavy-duty vehicle rule that we're going to put out, which is going to be challenging, but one that we're going to be putting out soon so that we can do exactly the same thing and work with that community to effectively produce vehicles that will move our products and commerce effectively, but ensure that urban areas are protected from not just an air pollution challenge, but that the rest of us and all of us are protected from carbon pollution.
Excellent. So I have a question here which is probably relevant because you're going to be testifying before the Senate Environment Committee soon. What do you individually do when you meet a member of the public who does not believe in climate change?
Well, I don't run screaming into the night, that's for sure. I'm not the most timid individual. I talk to them. I try to understand what facts they think they've been listening to, and I try to learn from it. I mean, I think the basic challenge that all of us have in working on environmental issues is to explain to people why we do what we do and why it's meaningful to their lives. I think a lot of what's happened over the past 40 years is that we've shifted from pollution that's very visible and industries that you can point at and smokestacks and black smoke to something that's much more difficult to get our arms around. And it doesn't mean that we run away from it. It means that it is a challenge for us to explain the science better. And it's a challenge for us to try to get the politics out of the situation. You know, environmental pollution has no political affiliation. It is simply a challenge we need to face together, and that's how I'll continue to face it.
So I have a question here from somebody who's from your hometown of Canton,
No kidding.
Massachusetts. It says, "Go Bulldogs." I assume you know what that means?
Yeah, hey! Go Bulldogs! Yeah, that was our mascot in Canton High.
How do you feel industry will face the Clean Power Plan with open arms or negativity? You touched upon this a little bit, and maybe a slight variant of this question is, which parts of industry are going to be meeting you with open arms, and which ones are going to be very hostile? I mean, some of us know some of those answers already.
Well, maybe you'd like to give the answer. Industry's working very well with EPA, and in fact, the utility industry I've had a great relationship with the utility industry because I think frankly, and I speak frankly, and they do as well. We have had tremendous progress in identifying ways in which we can move forward. Just think about the mercury and air toxic standard. We've been dwelling on that for decades and getting it wrong, and we got it right. And I think we got it right because we put out a proposal that was strong, and we listened, and we made changes in between proposal and final. We're going to take the same attitude here. There are no bad guys and good guys on climate. Everybody cares about their kids. Everybody cares about the challenges we're facing. The utilities are not lined up as climate deniers. It is very challenging for them to understand how they can think about the business they do and still provide affordable and reliable energy supplies to this country. And we are going to work through that challenge. One of the most important things that we tried to do, I think successfully, was to put the Clean Power Plan out in a way that invited discussion before and during. So that we could make it flexible enough that every state could work with their own utilities in their own energy world to design a strategy moving forward that would respect the information that they have, their understanding of their energy supplies, and still develop plans that could achieve significant reductions. I am pumped up not just by the early discussions we've had, but by the engagement we've had during the comment period. And I think that we will make this work. And there's no finger pointing at who likes it and doesn't like it. In my world, we're just rolling up our sleeves with the states, the utilities, and the energy industry and making it work.
I think that's a really important answer.
Can I just add one more thing? And this may sound a little bit too smooshy for me, but I went to a meeting of the board of EEI, and they reminded me, and rightly so, that energy is a public service. It is an essential public service, and I will always treat them with the respect that they deserve as providing an essential service, and we will not threaten the reliability or affordability of our energy supply. We're going to make progress, but we're going to make it together.
Great. Now, obviously, we're all aware that oil prices have dropped by well over half in the last few months and look likely to stay low for a while. How is that going to impact the efforts you have underway?
Well, frankly, we all have to be sensitive to the fact that the energy world is in transition, and I don't think anyone could have predicted the kind of energy prices, at least not and be taken seriously, that we're seeing today. Good news or bad, energy prices fluctuate, and I don't think any of us expect that this is going to be a long-term trend. But we just need to be sensitive to it and continue to work with the industry to understand what's happening today and how we can work with them as we look at things like our methane challenge moving forward. I think many of you know we put out a methane strategy. And EPA is planning to develop regulations, and we'll be putting them out this summer to take a look at how we can develop standards for methane emissions from oil and gas sector. Beginning with new and then working with the industry in terms of how we begin to get our arms around existing. It will be a challenge. It will be more of a challenge because there is obviously concern in that industry about what it means for them. But I do know that the President and I both understand very much how the positive influence that the continued production of oil and natural gas in the U.S. has made in terms of fueling an energy transition that provides us the investment opportunity for a low-carbon future. There is a lot of tremendous opportunity that the energy transition has provided us to reduce traditional pollutants and to see our way forward, and we're going to make sure that nothing we do threatens that transition either.
Fantastic. You actually just got my last question, which was about 5 questions about the methane rule. So let me say thank you very much, Gina. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, everybody.
And good luck over the next few years.